Salzburg Lehen, a district close to the center where urban changes in recent years have had a significant impact. The high population density, demographic changes, senior citizen residents and the high ratio of migrant families are important issues that Salzburg's city planners need to address.
The Stadtwerk
is an essential part of the urban renewal strategy for Lehen, a very urban district which has not always been planned and implemented as carefully as it should have been. Lehen is a place which also shows its age. With this strategy, we weren't just aiming for well-deserved improvement in the district's image, but we were also striving for a rejuvenation, so to speak. We wanted to enliven the area, to create a truly urban city flair at the ground level. Most of Lehen's existing residential area is densely populated and was built between 1950 and 1970. Modernization was a must-have on the district development agenda. The old Lehen Stadium, the former Mercedes estate, and the old Stadtwerk Lehen were unused commercial areas which were slotted for redevelopment. Buildings within the framework of the Concerto project offer homes to 435 families and 187 senior citizens and students. The Salzburg Housing Fund is supporting this building project with a subsidized loan amounting to 70 million euros, covering nearly 90% of the construction costs. Furthermore, a hearty thank you goes to the European Union for providing over 2 million euros for this project. In 2006, an EU application was filed in cooperation with the partner municipality of Copenhagen. The EU Concerto program supports cities in their efforts to increase energy efficiency and use renewable resources. The building projects in Lehen were subsidized by the European Union with well over 2.3 million euros. The Neue Mitte Lehen was created where the old soccer stadium used to be. A new center for urban living was erected, housing a modern city library, plus shops for day-to-day purchases, and sporting a covered courtyard area at its front. Toward the east, 48 subsidized rental flats with 140 square meters of solar panels were built. On the ground floor, there is a large room for events, extra meeting facilities for seniors, and a training kitchen. In addition to subsidized flats for young families, 32 assisted living flats for older people and a facility for senior citizens with 90 beds were built on the old Mercedes estate. The buildings are very low-energy homes, partly with regulated air exchange and a solar system for hot water and heating. The project, called Parklife, is the result of a European competition for young architects.
Uns war nicht so sehr wichtig der Einzelbau.
For us, the individual buildings were not the priority, but rather what was in between, I mean the public space, because a city lives from its attractive public spaces, and these were still old school in Lehen, dating back to the period of industrial expansion, openly built structures dating back to the 20th century. Now, in many places in the neighborhood, I think we have succeeded in setting new, attractive accents, creating spaces that are diversified and exciting with an urban environment that is in line with contemporary living.
Urbanes Milieu garantieren können, das zeitentsprechend ist.
The Strubergasse buildings were erected between 1950 and 1960. They were analyzed in an in-depth study, and then a sustainable renovation concept was created. first stage was finished in the winter of 2012 to 2013. Some structures have been replaced by energy-efficient new buildings with underground parking. Others were insulated according to a low-energy standard, connected to the solar district heating system and fitted with new balconies. The Stadtwerk Lehen is the heart of the project. Here, a new section of the city is evolving. "287 new homes, a kindergarten, a student dormitory and an art gallery have been built. All kinds of facilities have found locations at the ground level, making the boulevard an interesting pedestrian zone. The Association for the Management of the Ground Level and the District Management are essential elements of the Stadtwerk Lehen.
Eine Besonderheit an diesem Projekt ist die
A special feature in this project is the social organizational component in the form of a district management, which is especially responsible for distribution of large amounts of information and early inclusion of current and potential inhabitants. We want people to feel at home here. In the beginning, it was important to inform the inhabitants well in advance and to include them at an early point in time. Now we want to focus more on solidifying the neighborhood structures so that we can step back at the end of the project. The old Stadtwerke skyscraper has been renovated and now serves as the new location for the Salzburg Adult Education Center. The new buildings to the south will be used in the future for educational facilities, laboratories and offices. The energy concept is exemplary. All buildings are energy efficient, very low energy houses with regulated ventilation. This energy concept now boasts the largest thermal solar facility in Western Austria, with 2,000 square meters of collectors and a 200,000-liter buffer storage facility. The innovative energy concept is supported by a 20 kilowatt peak photovoltaic facility, the largest for making use of solar energy in Salzburg's non-commercial construction sector. We quickly agreed in the project group that the energy supply for heating and hot water was to be provided by means of a district heating grid that would not only serve the new buildings, but also the approximately 600 existing flats, as well as the newly created competence center. At the same time, it was important for us to keep the engineering as simple as possible and to focus on a high benefit for the tenants, which meant low heating and operating costs. A working group was established for this solar system, and the Steinbeis Institute was charged with simulation, planning and monitoring. The solar heat is collected in the buffer storage and distributed to the users by means of a microgrid. Each flat has a transfer station in which the heat is measured and the hot water is prepared. As a result, there are only minor losses and no risk of bacteria. The current monitoring since the startup shows that the solar heat pump was able to increase the yield of the solar facility by 15%. Compared to a traditional oil-heated community, there is a reduction in CO2 emissions of up to 76%. 35 to 40% of the heat for the heating and hot water requirements during the entire year can be produced directly by the sun for the homes in the Stadtwerk. The energy supply of the Stadtwerk Lehen is one of the most innovative projects of the city and the province of Salzburg. On the one hand, various components have been united and the efficiency has been increased considerably by a heat pump, which again increases the yield of the largest solar facility in Salzburg by 15%. On the other hand, it is remarkable that here, with a 65-degree flow temperature, we are not only supplying the buildings in the Stadtwerke area, but also the buildings nearby. It is quite unique in Salzburg to look beyond one's horizon and to integrate further buildings, allowing them to share in the efficient heat supply and solar energy. Lehen's revitalization has been initiated through a wise interaction of energy consciousness, architecture, and social issues. And the goal to make the most of solar energy in an urban environment has been achieved. The main challenges in this project were to implement the very ambitious goals already fixed at the beginning with so many different partners. Good quality management was therefore essential. The quality agreement and the steering committee were instruments that turned out to be very helpful. And thanks to the EU project and the province's research authorities for home construction, who declared this a model project, it was possible to accompany this innovative energy system, which certainly is exemplary in Europe, in a scientific manner during its course, to evaluate it thoroughly and to implement it with real success.